Bernie, good to have you on the show. You are an expert when it comes to all things law enforcement. When you assess what happened yesterday, the fact that building was left uncovered and a shooter was able to get to an elevated position and get off 8-9 shots, what goes through your mind?
Well, I think the pre-planning for the event and the counter-sniper oversights were, it was incompetence in my opinion. There was no overlook positions closer to that area. Keep in mind, it's not as close as people would think. It was 152 yards. That's a football field and a half away. However, there should have been oversight of those positions, number one. And number two, guys, you had no communications between the outer ring of security and the internal ring around the president. In other words, when there were people out there screaming at the cops that there was a guy up on top of that building with a gun, nobody got that message to the internal ring of where the president was. Otherwise, he would have been blanketed and moved off the podium until the coast was clear. There are definite flaws and failures that somebody's going to have to look at, and I got to be honest, in my opinion, the Justice Department and the FBI can't be trusted to do this. These are the same people that concealed the laptop, the same people that have persecuted, the president for the last 3 years. I think somebody has to put together an independent commission to conduct this investigation, and the oversight of the Secret Service has to be seriously looked at.
Well, Bernie, what you're describing to us is a structural failure, a failure to communicate between the outside rings, the inside rings, a failure of local law enforcement to communicate with Secret Service that almost cost Donald Trump his life within half an inch, because the effective range of that rifle, even at 152 yards, well within its effective range of about 500 in the hands of somebody that knows what they're doing. And I agree with what you're saying. I think that people need to be held to account. I think people should lose their jobs based on what we've seen here. It was a complete failure, worst that we've seen since March of 1981. What do you say to that?
Listen, I agree. And I think the other thing that has to be looked at, there are numerous reports, and I know the Secret Service came out this morning and denied it, but there's numerous reports that the Trump team has requested additional Secret Service protection, and it's been denied. If that's true, and that can be a part of this problem. However, listen, I've worked 50 of these types of details where the Secret Service can't be. They can fill spaces with the state police, with the local sheriff, with the local police departments. It's completely unacceptable that area was not covered, that there wasn't somebody on top of those buildings.
I want to read some names here because John mentioned this earlier, and I think this is important, and I want you to hear their names. Bernie, I want everybody to hear these names because Benny Thompson, the chair of the House J6 committee, and 8 of his Democrat comrades wanted to pull Secret Service protection from the president altogether. So Benny Thompson, Troy Carter, Barbara Lee, Frederica Wilson, Yvette Clark, Coleman Watson, Jasmine Crockett, Joyce Beatty, and Steve Cohen. Tennessee, you must be proud today. But these people wanted to pull protection altogether.
Unreal. It's just an unreal thing.
Listen, that's completely irresponsible. It's irresponsible. It's incitive. It's instigative. That sets off people like this lunatic that did this. That sets them off to do what they did.
Commissioner, I want to ask you a little bit about aerial coverage. Normally, there might be a drone, there might be some hidden cameras. Are you shocked that no one had eyes on that building, even just from a camera remote location, to see it? It seems like there was just no one watching that building. If there wasn't a human body, there's cameras and drones normally. What do you say about that?
I just honestly, guys, I think it's incompetence. I think the pre-planning for the event by the security apparatus, be it Secret Service and others, nobody hit it, nobody covered it, and it's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's not that close, but 152 yards is extremely close with a long rifle and an adequate shooter. And listen, when you watch that coverage, when you watch the president, and you know that the people around him died, there's somebody around him that died, It was the turning of his head. It was the turning of his head that stopped him from being dead. Had he not turned in the position he was, he'd be dead.
Bernie, there's a 20-year-old man at the heart of this shooting. What sort of things are law enforcement going to be doing? They're going to turn up every aspect of his life, but where does this investigation go next?
Well, first they're gonna look at everything about this guy, about his family, about his his associates, all of his electronic communications. Was there outside influence? I've heard a ton of the conspiracy theorists today. This was an inside job and all this other stuff. It's way, way, way premature to go there yet. But I am concerned, John. I'm seriously concerned about the FBI and the DOJ. Who's going to conduct this investigation that we can really, truly trust? Who's that going to be?
Yeah, no, that's an important question, and I think after the Russia collusion and everything that's happened, that FBI has earned that distrust, and it's going to be very interesting to see. Congress is definitely going to get involved. We're going to have Glenn Grothman, the chairman of the House Oversight Subcommittee on National Security. He's going to join us a little bit to talk about how Congress is going to be right on top of this as well. Bernie Kerik, you've known the president for a very long time, former President Donald Trump. A resilient moment. He gets shot. He gets right up, shows the crowd, keep fighting. What did that mean to you? What did it say to you for a guy you've known for a long time?
I've known him since 1992, and I can tell you what, as they drug him off that stage yesterday, if it was up to him, he would have stood up there and finished his speech. If it was up to him, he would have stayed there. Here's the bottom line.
Yeah. All
you did was energize him. That's all they did. They energized him to an extent that normal people just can't take.
Yeah, it was an iconic American moment. I think we can agree on that. A Teddy Roosevelt type moment. Take the shot, stand up,
exactly.
Speak to the crowd, speak to America, speak to the world about strength. That was my takeaway, Bernie.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, Mr. Commissioner, as always, it's a great honor to have you on. Your expertise is bar none. You are truly one of the greatest law enforcement officials I've ever met in my life. Thank you for spending some time on a very busy day with us. Good to have you on.
Thanks, John. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Tara